Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gaming Gold, Episode 1 for Monday, April 8th, 2013. My name is Jordan Rader. I'll be your host for this show. Just give you a little bit of information. Basically, today we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about myself a little bit, let sort of where I'm from and stuff like that, and talk about the show, let you know what you can expect, um, things like that. So, let's just jump right into it. I just turned 30 on the 31st, and I'm going to school at Full Sail University. It's an awesome school. Anybody who's interested in getting into game design or anything like that, I highly recommend it. It's well worth the like 60 grand I'm putting into it, uh, and it's a lot of fun. I'm in my third month now. So yeah, a lot of fun, very cool place. Check it out, Full Sail University. Um, A little bit of other things about me. I've been a gamer for, I don't know, 25 years, something like that. Started playing Mario and Duck Hunt and stuff like that. First game that really got me into it, you can see right behind me there, Final Fantasy 3 or Final Fantasy 6 if you're an aficionado on what Square did back then. Um, we can talk about that some other time. But yeah, so that really kicked it off for me, Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 3. Um, and yeah, so that's pretty much the beginnings of me. Um, as for the show is basically a place for me to come to you guys and talk about video games, the gaming industry, or the game industry, as somebody was telling me the other day. Um, Not to be confused with like the lottery and things like that. Um, but yeah, so talk about video games, talk about all kinds of stuff, MMOs, uh, first-person shooters, RPGs, auction houses, anything you can think of. I will probably talk about on the show at some point. um, so yeah, that's pretty much what the show is going to be about. Um, Today, I kind of want to talk about console versus computer games. MMO uh, versus standalone RPG, single player, that type of thing, and just sort of like the different sort of dynamics that happen with those. Um, so let's see, a computer game with a computer game. There seems to be much more focus, at least there used to be, this big disparity, this big gap between a computer game. A lot of times was with a lot of people. I mean, there were single player computer games, but a lot of them were you know were large and or at least had some multiplayer aspect. Um, Now console games are getting into that a lot. They want to have multiplayer maps and things like that to go along with their single player games. But console was always focused a lot more heavily on single player, um, about the story. I mean, even if it was a war game like Modern Warfare or something like that, it was more about the campaign, and then you had multiplayer after that. And now it's become you play it for the multiplayer, and the story's sort of there, but not a lot of people care about that. Um, I don't personally play FPS very much. It's just not my cup of tea. Um, so if I'm wrong about that, I'm sorry. If the story is a major focus, then more power to them. Um, and another thing with console games, like sports games and things like that. Um, I'm not a big player of sports games, mainly because I just don't. For me personally, investing $60 every single year to get a game with a new roster with some slight upgrades in graphics or functionality, not really something I want to spend $60 on. Um, but I can see how how people, want to do that and things like that. Um, if you do that every year, more power to you. You choose how to spend your money. It's just not how I want to spend mine. Um, I am, however, a big MMO player. Um, I've been playing MMOs for 12 years now. Started with a little Korean game called Dark Ages. Uh, it looked like basically a Super Nintendo game, side-scrolling maps and stuff like that. It was interesting. It got me into the whole genre, and and that's where I started. Um, Played that for a year, 2 years almost, and then I started playing Final Fantasy 11. That's where I met my girlfriend, and moved out here to California, and the rest is history pretty much. I've played WoW for 7 years, uh, played Age of Conan, played. If you can think of an MMO, I probably played it, unless it was like a Korean free to play or something like that. And I even played a lot of those. Um, I could talk about MMOs just all day, pretty much. Um, but MMOs are, just like in the name, massive multiplayer online games. So they focus on group, small group, large group, um, but that is their main focus, is putting people together and making them go do stuff. Um, it's about building that group dynamic. There is solo content in them as well, but the main focus is on group normally. Um, that's actually one thing that sort of Sweater ran into, uh, Star Wars: The Old Republic, was that it was so focused on story, it actually felt like a single player game. And then when you got to level cap and your single player story ended, you were kind of like, well, where's the rest of it? Now what do I do? And I think that's one reason why they struggled a lot. Uh, they're doing a lot of things to get people back into the game and things like that, and they're really pushing it, and they're moving into a good spot. I think that BioWare is doing what they need to do to make sure that they succeed. So no no hurt feelings or bad juju for Star Wars. Um, as you can see, I love Star Wars. There we go. If I can move the right direction. Um, but I play all kinds of stuff. Um, One of the games that I recently played and loved. Well, actually, I say recently. I've been playing it. I played it for over a year, pretty much on and off. Was Skylanders. Those guys are back there too. Um, the thing I really loved about that game was it's an action adventure game. It's designed for kids, so it's just comic fun and bashing things with hammers, stuff like that. It seems, but but one of the cool things about it was the multiplayer. You have this thing and you put your character on there, and it brings that character into the game. All their level up information, all that stuff is stored on the character. If you want to play over at your friend's house, you just bring your character with you, or whatever characters you want to bring with you. You bring them with you, and you can play them in their game, or vice versa. They can come over to your house with their characters and play them in your game. And any levels or anything like that are stored on the character. So it sort of changed how multiplayer worked for me, because I'm not a big sit there, log into Xbox Live or PlayStation Network and you know go play Modern Warfare or something like that. So to have a multiplayer experience on a console for me was very cool, especially since I do it so much with MMOs. Uh, and so it's sort of these interesting dynamics of how things have changed between the MMO market. If you look at the MMO market 10 years ago, it was your highest population server was like 40, 50,000 tops. And that was for uh, Ultima Online and EverQuest, the two juggernauts before before WoW came out. When World of Warcraft came out, destroyed everything, destroyed everyone's preconceptions, um, of what MMO could or should be, um, and just really turned the whole industry on its head. And now, looking 9 years, we've come 9 years since WoW came out now, um, or so, and we're in an interesting place in the MMO market. Uh, we've sort of reached where anime was at the end of the 80s, um, early 90s, and we're sort of reaching that golden era where, or we're in that golden era, I should say, where basically companies make MMOs, they put them out, and they're just doing whatever worked for World of Warcraft, whatever worked for that other MMO. They're trying to do that, but they're not really innovating anything. They're not really doing anything. They're just trying to put out a product and make money. And I think that right now we're sort of in this very sort of teetery sort of position where if a game doesn't come out, and maybe Elder Scrolls Online will be it, or I'm actually really excited about the new Final Fantasy because I think that they've made some killer improvements since the flop 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, whatever it was. The total disaster that was the first Final Fantasy 14. But the new one actually looks amazing. Or things like WildStar. I mean, people have been trying to do stuff with active combat and stuff like that, um, but it's really sort of just they haven't quite got it yet. There's something. They need something. They need that. If anybody's familiar with what happened with anime, basically that Akira or Ghost in the Shell, those things that they basically saved the anime genre for American audiences. Um, they were just about ready to pull the plug and not send the anime to America at all anymore. And then those came out, were hugely popular, and they basically saved the genre, and that's why we still have it today, 25 years later. But I think that the MMOs are sort of in this unique position where, because they take so much money to make, there's such a huge investment that they're also a huge risk if they flop. Like if you're making a free to play MMO and you're going to dump $100 million, $50 million into it, you know, and you don't like, if you don't have any box sales, then you're relying completely on your market. You're on your in-game transactions and things like that, and that's a very risky proposition if your game fails. So um, so I think we're just sort of in this weird spot right now where either we're going to start getting, and we started to see it with Kickstarter and stuff like that, where we're getting these very focused MMOs. Like this one's just going to be 5v5 PvP. This one's just going to be this. This one's just going to be that. We've started to see those on Kickstarter, and those you can make more cheaply because you're not making in this full featured AAA MMO. Um, but I think that for MMOs like Tizo and WoW and things like that, the new Titan, whatever that is, um, for those MMOs to truly succeed, they've got to bring something innovative, and it can't just be, well, now I can hit this button and dodge, or active combat. I don't think active combat is going to save the genre. It most definitely engages people more, but you know what? Sometimes I just want to sit there and spam my button. I'm not saying it's raid night, but sometimes I just want to log in and blow off steam because I had a hard day at work or whatever, and I don't want to have to worry about, oh, I need to dodge, and if I don't dodge, I'm gonna die, or I have to do all this complex button mashing, just to get the effect, just so I survive. And so I don't like that aspect necessarily. I think it's good, because when I want to play something challenging, great. But when I don't want to play something challenging, then what do I play? I can go pick up a console game, toss it on easy, and play that. But if I want to be around my friends and stuff like that, don't really have a choice other than an MMO. So, um, so yeah, that's sort of my thoughts. This is just a starting point. Um, have any questions, comments, anything like that? Feel free to hit me up. Uh, all my contact information will be following here just shortly. Um, and yeah, just let me know what you thought. This is the first episode. I know it's kind of rusty, but I wanted to get it out there, get it started, and I'll see you guys again next week. Thank you very much. Hey guys, if you like the show, feel free to follow or subscribe on Facebook at facebook.com/gaminggold88, on YouTube at youtube.com/gaminggold88, or on Twitter at Jordan Raider. Thank you. Have a nice day.